Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Schenectady. Today is Sunday, July 13th, 2025, in a very toasty Schenectady, New York. I am Robin Salvin, she, her pronouns, and I'm serving as your worship associate this morning. Our guest worship leader this morning is Reverend Shelley Page. Reverend Shelley retired last year after serving as the developmental minister at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lawrence in Kansas. A graduate of Cornell University and Starr King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, she also served congregations in Delaware, Michigan, Utah, and Alaska. A Unitarian Universalist for over 40 years, her lay leadership roles include founding mother of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua in New York. We are so grateful that you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us, whether you're here in the Great Hall or are joining us on Zoom.
Yeah, you probably already figured out that I love lichen. And I always have since I was a kid. Who else here likes lichen? Do we have some other lichen fans here? Yeah. And I love now that with the technology of my little phone camera, it's like a built-in hand lens, so I can get in really close and just really see the details. What's not to like? So many colors, so many forms, and so many places. Let's face it, it's cool and so mysterious. And so not what you think. I imagine that we all learned some variation of this in elementary school. Freddie Fungus and Alice Algae took a liken to one another, right? In other words, the common understanding that a lichen is a partnership between a fungus and an algae. This understanding first came to being in 1869 when a Swiss botanist published a paper advancing the very radical notion that lichens were not a single organism, but that a fungus and algae could cooperate to live together in places where neither could live alone. Now, believe it or not, this idea was not readily accepted. Even the highly rational Unitarian naturalist and children's book author Beatrix Potter declared, "We do not believe in this theory." Just saying. So scientists were also confounded about how to classify this organism. All other life forms seem to be diverging from one another. Think of that tree of life as the evolutionary metaphor. But here was a case of convergence, a deliberate mashup of parts of creation. And how to think about this was puzzling. As the 1870s and 80s progressed, more scientists embraced the concept of symbiosis, including the idea that parts of creation collaborated with one another for mutual benefit. Evolution was no longer solely about competition and conflict, but rather inter-kingdom collaboration. So then fast forward 100 years, and not surprisingly, we've unraveled more mysteries about lichen. Lichenologists now understand that it's not just Freddie and Alice in there, but Bob and Carol and Ted and more. Lots of them all in bed together there. Often, there's more than one fungus and a variety of bacteria and a yeast and the algae all working as a system, a micro-community, a microplanet, whole worlds writ small. More and more, biologists are recognizing that all life is a dynamic process, not matter in a classic sense. Lichen is much more than the sum of its parts. Even our bodies are lichenized. Yes, that is truly a biological term. In case you're wondering, I did not make it up. Lichenized. After all, only 43% of our bodies is made up of human cells. The rest are bacteria and viruses and fungus and more. The fact is that each of us is deeply enmeshed in a microbiome system. We are a walking, talking ecosystem. Yeah, you didn't think of yourself as a lichen, did you? The late Buddhist leader Thich Nhat Hanh coined the term interbeing to spiritually describe this biological fact, among other things. In fact, even the notion of individual human bodies is truly a point of view, not a biological reality. Our very existence is deeply interdependent every moment of our lives. But the lichens have superpowers that we don't have. They are extremophiles, able to live in seemingly inhospitable places, whether it is the dry valleys of Antarctica, sea cliffs at the spray line, or Chernobyl. They are the first to colonize newly formed land emerging from the sea as volcanoes do their thing. They're also the first to cover the rock laid bare as glaciers melt, rock that had been encased with ice for thousands of years. They survived space missions with no harm done. And it's the same deal. After immersion in liquid nitrogen at minus 195 degrees centigrade, they quickly bounce back. So here's the truth. Lichens are truly badass. Truly. And so you think to yourself, well, how do they do that? So the more we study lichens, the more we learn and the more we discover to uncover. Of course, that's the way of science, always discovering new things, but these incredible beings continue to confound us in many ways. The truth is that while they have the fungal and algal, and yes, all those other parts, they resemble none of those things. An analogy is that water is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, but water itself is like nothing like oxygen or hydrogen individually. And the intelligence within lichen goes to work when faced with extreme challenges. They automatically, creatively adapt to their situation, like stopping photosynthesis within hours of entering a Martian simulator, and then starting right up again after 30 days of experiments, or resuscitating themselves after a decade of dehydration and freezing and thawing. The hardiest of them have thick layers of tissue to block damaging sun rays. They create, this I believe is a mind-blowing thing, they create more than 1,000 chemicals not found in any other life form, including their own sunscreen. Yeah, as I said, badass. Deep down, the lichens understand themselves as dynamic systems, to put our human words on them. As biologist Merlin Sheldrake states in his book, Entangled Life, which, by the way, I highly recommend if you are curious about lichens, check this book out. This is what Dr. Sheldrake said. Lichens are places where an organism unravels into an ecosystem and where an ecosystem congeals into an organism. They flicker between wholes and collections of parts. Shuttling between two perspectives is a confusing experience. The word individual comes from the Latin meaning undividable. Is the whole lichen the individual, Or are its constituent parts, members, the individuals? Is this even the right question to ask? Are lichens less a product of their parts than of exchanges between those parts? Lichens are stabilized by networks of relationships. They never stop lichenizing. They are verbs as well as nouns. Yeah, so recent, unquote, recent lichen discoveries reveal a situation infinitely more complex than anyone could have imagined. Another scientist said, instead of finding out the roles of the players, we bump into yet more players. The deeper we dig, the more we find. Yet another scientist wrote a paper called Queer Theory for Lichens, because they cause us to think way beyond the human tendency toward binary framing. These complex beings have figured out not just how to survive, but to thrive over the entire planet. In fact, 8% of the surface of Earth is covered in lichen, more than the tropical rainforest. So let that sink in. And the oldest lichen that we know of has been around for 9,000 years. So let that sink in too. Fact is, they know stuff. They're doing something. There's some deep, deep knowledge there. And so they are our teachers. Now, humans have made use of lichens for medicines and dyes and perfumes and food, but they have value as teachers of other kinds in these times. For it can be said that we are living on the cusp of extreme times, and it makes sense to pay attention to what extremophiles do that makes them successful. Now, while many more mysteries are yet to be solved, we do know that the nature of lichens has them playing on the strengths of their parts, calling on their superpowers when needed, and shutting things down when they're not needed, and being there together at the ready in their super diverse little universes. That speaks to me right now. Right now, as we face potential for extreme times, whether facing fascism, tackling climate changes, living through the end of capitalism, or things we can't yet imagine. It tells me that connecting only with your own kind is the way of doom. This is precisely the time to make friends and connections with a diverse bunch of folks. Resilience and thriving will happen in the complex interstitial alchemy of people with various gifts, backgrounds, perspectives, coming together to solve these incredible challenges as they arise. After all, we are all in this together when you view the entire planet as a lichen. We will only survive and thrive through alliances, cooperation, collaboration, and building on the strengths of each as each strength is needed, and shutting down what's not needed, like white supremacy culture. That means, and I'm speaking right now with an assumptiveness, and I will own that assumptiveness, it means getting out of our white liberal bubble and connecting now with people who are not like you, me, us, Unitarian Universalists. It means appreciating superpowers of others as never before. It means intimate connection, not surface level, hello when you see each other at the farmer's market. It means getting out of your comfort zone and learning to sit comfortably with a variety of people, including our indigenous neighbors. It means deepening your relationships with people of color and immigrants. It means lovingly lichenizing your relationships, so that all may thrive in these times to come. I also observe that lichens live in small communities. I mean, all these photographs, I mean, these things are little. I mean, sometimes they're big, but big means this, not, huge. So they're small to our eyes and small to our human sensibilities. There's no one big lichen out there with all the just right parts and pieces to respond to any need or circumstances. No, there are countless creative, small patches of lichen living in a variety of habitats, each creatively adapting in its own way to thrive and do its part. So friends, right now, we're not called to have the one big beautiful answer to all the challenges we face as a nation or a planet. But lichens beckon us to follow their example and lichenize our lives in our own smaller circles of family, friends, neighborhoods, colleagues, the communities where we live and love and work and play. Let us learn new pathways of loving collaboration and cooperation from these marvelously complex life forms as we journey through our own trying times. May it be so. Blessed be.